It was the most depressing and dark time in my life, taking care of people in nursing homes where they're waiting to die.
What if the way you look on the outside is actually a window into how fast you're aging on the inside?
That is where I actually realized that aging is a disease.
What if the things your doctor calls normal aging are actually a disease syndrome you don't have to accept?
To just consider that this pause that's happening to you is just normal aging is something that we need to now re-examine as a concept.
Today, I'm sitting down with board-certified physician, TEDx speaker, and author of Do We Really Need Botox, Dr. Sofia Din.
A lot of the diseases of aging start in the middle age. Aging helplessly and aging with agency are two different things.
Today, she's telling us exactly what your doctor isn't and what you can do right now to take back control of how you age.
When all your organs are failing, and if your doctor cannot make it better because we didn't stop it early on, we have ourselves misguided and have been misguiding people. At any given point, another chemical reaction may just occur in your system. And then there you go. You're like, poof, there's a problem. I've seen miraculous recoveries from problems that everybody had given up.
Welcome to the Superhuman Blueprint Podcast.
Dr. Sofia Din, you say that aging is a disease. Obviously, we're aging essentially from the point of conception. So I guess let's pretend I'm a skeptic on this concept. How would you convince me that aging is not just a natural process, but actually a disease that can be addressed as such?
So that's a great question. Thank you for bringing this up. And aging, to my mind, used to be a process. This is what we considered. We've accepted aging as a normal thing as humans, that this is something happens to us. However, aging is a process that can be adjusted to the body. We are organic beings and we're going through time. And there's a time comes that we are at our peaks, we are doing great, we have the energy, we have our health. However, a time comes that the human body is pre-designed to go through pauses in life. And these pauses are meant to eject you from the matrix of life and health and fertility. And recognizing these pauses is just something totally different. So these pauses, I consider them a stage in your body's existence where you'll just jump down because they'll just exit you from the matrix and slowly remove you from it eventually. So they're designed to eject you. Our ancestors were living much less than us. They used to eat and exercise and work a lot more than you and I. Their bodies lasted them, if they were very lucky, maybe 30 or 40 years. However, science and medicine and understanding your body has increased your lifespan. And now we are at that place where we not only want to increase the lifespan, but also to increase something called the health span, which is to basically throughout your lifespan, if you have no health, you will feel very defeated and depressed with how life is going to attack you, because life is not going to be bearable when you are in different forms of diseases. Because the thing is that disease is painful, it's suffering, and it removes you from whatever you're predestined or programmed to do. So every human genetic code has a purpose. That's what our belief is. And I feel that the thing is that that purpose can't be completed unless you're in good alignment with your body and mind and body. Your body exists for your brain to manifest whatever it has. And that consciousness, however it flows through you, it's fine. However, aging as a concept of aging, the one thing that I also like to say is that aging helplessly and aging with agency are two different things.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And so we're going to definitely pick that one apart. I'm curious. So let's just say no other sicknesses, diseases present in someone's life. They don't have any of the chronic illnesses as a young person. So the only disease that they're going to face is aging. At what point does aging become something that would be considered a disease state where it's not, you're maturing and growing, but now you're declining as you age?
So those concepts are called the pause.
Okay.
So in women, we call it menopause, and there is a decade long of perimenopause that precedes that eventual pause.
Mm-hmm.
And for men, there is something called andropause. So
Mm-hmm.
before men experience that pause, they have like a decade worth of things that are happening at a cellular level. So these pauses hit both men and women, and they're at different phases of their life. And to just consider that this pause that's happening to you is just normal aging is something that we need to now re-examine as a concept. And that's what we say, that it's not like you are not going to become, right now we have not been able to turn that switch off where your system just stops aging. However, we have been able to slow it down just by recognizing that there are certain things that are happening to the body at a cellular hormonal shifts that are happening. Because remember, humans are nothing but a chemical reaction occurring under our skin. And that reaction changes. A little tiny absence of a hormone, and you won't be able to get up. And no matter how disciplined you are, Drew, how well you coach somebody, if their thyroid is not working, and we don't put that thyroid back inside, they are not going to be able to move themselves. So the body becomes a mountain of flesh that you will not have, like a little tiny absence of a little hormone. So again, when pause happens, some of the things that make you who you are, so what makes a man, or what makes a woman, or feel like one, are these little cellular hormonal shifts that continue to happen throughout life, but a point comes that they accelerate. And then that acceleration in that descent of different chemistry, that is what leads to some eventualities. Now, you would find women, I don't know, I'm sure, do you have like menopausal ladies that you take care of?
Oh, yeah.
So no matter how hard these ladies work, they will not be able to get out of some of the hormonal slumps, the
Yep.
shifts that hormones are causing. And we have ourselves been misguided and have been misguiding people in the sense that not telling them the signs and symptoms, not only not connecting these symptoms for them, but also how to get out of these symptoms. And this is because the awakening to this new reality is occurring. It just started occurring in the last few years. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic actually helped everybody take a
Really?
brief pause and realign ourselves with our body and health. And that
Interesting.
shift in the way humans dealt with their bodies is like, it changed. So we're forever changed,
Yeah.
and we're forever grateful for some of those things. So one of the things that also shifted in the last few years is how we look at hormones for women and men. And their black box warnings were removed just last year. And imagine that, women, like almost decades of women, initially were fed bad hormones, like synthetic hormones that didn't even look like hormones or feel to the body like hormones. Plus, then now that we have understanding, we have put on the hormones black box warnings. That's like, imagine if you were getting in your car and every time you got on your car, the car said, "Oh, you can die, you can kill somebody else, you can, every time you by sitting, you understand that you're gonna die, you will get cancer." So if that were to happen, imagine how many fewer people will drive or let their kids drive
Right.
that vessel. And some of these things that we recognized and there were availability, however, they were never studied because I think there's not much money in it. So maybe they thought that it's like a thing, that it's a supplement, or initially they said it's really, really bad, and now they are like trying to promote it. But again, the fear in women and men have been cultivated over decades of this, and this is like, bad reporting, I think.
And I do want to talk about hormones, but back on the pauses for a minute. So as I understand it, with menopause, it's defined as 12 months with no menstrual cycle or no period. And once you hit that 12-month mark, now you're menopause or postmenopause. And with andropause, is there an event or is it just kind of a continuous decline?
Yeah, no, that's what I always talk about, that men are at a disadvantage when it comes to the pauses, because for women, they at least can track what's happening to their period. So
Yeah.
they can say, oh, I skipped a period for 3 months. They know that they're in perimenopause many times. So that's what I'm saying, that it's not just a one. This is all science, and medicine has just created. This is a arbitrary thing that they're like, oh, 12 months, if you don't, we're going to call it menopause now. But before that
Yeah.
12-month period, there are years of irregularity. 2-3 months would
Yeah.
pass and somebody
Yeah.
wouldn't get a period.
Perimenopause sounds kind of terrible.
Yes, it's a very terrible period of
Yeah.
different biocellular shifts that lead to the part where you have absence of a thing that you can monitor. And then you realize that, you go to the doctor because you're like feeling super tired. You're feeling, it's not just a one system pause, it's an all system pause where your brain is pausing, your skin is pausing, your hair is thinning, your sleep is completely disrupted. There's a lot of pelvic health issues that women have around this period. Also, after all of this, and muscle and bone is also pausing. Immune system pauses are the worst, because this is the period of time when women develop the most cancers. They are unable to remove the weight because their cholesterol and their fat metabolism completely shifts. So all of those
Yep.
pauses lead to like this period of time where they stop having period, and then again a pause happens, which is like a descent in function, in so many other things that happen. However, when you come to men do not have any signs, because they cannot track it, because they have to there are different ways, because they suddenly start gaining weight. They also start having the same metabolic sluggishness. They also start having cholesterol abnormalities, no matter how well they're eating or whatever else they're doing. When you check their testosterone levels, they are tanking. And you can see it, you can like kind of sometimes correlate with their testosterone shifts. And that's not just one, that's a very tiny shift. Other shifts are simultaneously happening to them. So, and then usually the period of time, what I've noticed is men start having sexual troubles also, because one of their earliest symptoms
Mhm.
is ED. So if you're experiencing problems with something that you never had a problem with, it's like maybe some anatomical function, and what are the things that you need to do. It is anatomy in the sense that it's chemistry. It's a chemical imbalance of hormone is happening there too. So women usually manifest all these problems around 50s. Sometimes it's like, early 50s. By mid 50, most women are like have shifted. Men usually have like a 5-year advantage over
Mhm.
women. I think it is because of the fact that men are, you're not procreating. So women give a lot of their energy
Right.
into birthing new life. So that is why the body starts degrading faster. And men, because they have the advantage of not, cloning themselves. So that is why they kind of hold it together for a few years longer. And on top of that, if they're healthy, if their activities are good, and they promote health promoting activities, or they've shifted to healthier lifestyles, then they can stop the pause, or at least delay it for a little while longer.
Yeah. So as I understand it, you spent years working in geriatrics, but now you're really more in the longevity space. So how did that happen? Were you just sort
Yes,
of
I was
disheartened by what
I
you
was a
saw,
geriatrician.
or did you just, yeah. Yeah. So how did this shift happen? Because going from geriatrics to longevity is, I mean,
Yes.
that's kind of like the
So
opposite
I
ends
was
of the
an aging
spectrum, right?
doctor. So I studied aging in people, and that's why we're working in. So I was not just a geriatrician. I actually helped aging populations. Also, I used to follow them into the hospital, bring them back, try to see if they can stay in
Mhm.
assisted care settings. And that is where I actually realized that aging is a disease. That was when my, your epiphany
Okay.
moments, where I was like, no, there is nothing that we do helps them. And, it only gets worse. And that's
Right.
where
Yeah.
I realized that.
I was going to say that's the general attitude. And I think most doctors aren't trying to solve for that. They're just trying to, I guess, make it as comfortable as possible with the inevitable you're going to decline and then die.
Yeah.
If you are getting value from the Superhuman Blueprint podcast, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. It takes about 2 seconds, but it makes a huge difference. When you subscribe, you are not just keeping yourself plugged into the next episode, you are directly supporting the growth and reach of this show. That helps us bring on better guests, have deeper conversations, and keep delivering content that actually moves the needle in your life. So if this episode helps you in any way, please tap subscribe and be a part of building something bigger. Thank you.
Yeah. It was the most depressing and dark time in my life, taking care of people in nursing homes where when you're waiting to die.
Powerful. That's sad but powerful.
Yes, it's like waiting to die.
Yep.
One of the books that I was gonna, I haven't had a time to write that, but it's basically stories of people I met, some of my great humans I met in the nursing home who were waiting to die. And it is a depressing time because their bodies, their different organs are failing. It's when all your organs are failing. And if your doctor cannot make it better because we didn't stop it early on. So that's the reason I stopped. And I was like, the answer lies in something else. This is not the answer. This is not how I can help them. So I had to retrain myself and go figure out things that actually helped humans and how to stop that system from beginning to collapse, because a lot of the diseases of aging start in the middle age. In your 40s and 50s, you're going to be hitting them. How young are you, Drew?
I am 43.
Yeah, so that's very young. So I call 60 is the pediatrics of geriatrics. So between the ages of 40 to 55, that's the period of time when you need to actively seek the disintegration of your own system, because your body is a system which carries. Your skin is the largest organ of your body, and it is the holder of not just your consciousness, but also all of your other organs are carried inside your body. And that system starts experiencing little chemical jolts in your 40s, and they're going to keep happening. Maybe it will happen once a year, maybe it will happen twice a year, but you will experience something that may happen. And over a period of time, those tiny degradations will just bring your system down. And if everybody is healthy and they eat well and they sleep well, so some of the anti-aging treatments that we start recommending to people are, just so that you don't have to experience those tiny degradations. So once you're aware, you also use some of these treatments. And it is an ongoing learning. That's what I say. It has exploded, and you see people who are now wondering how to stay healthy, how to remain healthy, and how to remain youthful, even though aging is just a number. The calendar year is just a number in your brain. However, it just is a point where, we want to be at a place where we don't just want to live long. We also want to have health and wellness in it, in those years. Otherwise, you're just gonna, I didn't think that anybody in the nursing home wanted to be there.
Yeah. No, I've spent my fair share of time in nursing homes visiting family, and I certainly didn't want to be there as a visitor, and I sure as hell don't want to be there as a resident.
Yeah.
So I understand that. And actually, part of my own journey was my second son was born right around the time that I turned 40. So he's 3 now. And it occurred to me at that time, and I was already on, in the health and wellness space, but it occurred to me at that time that, let's say he has a child when he's the same age I was when he was born. So that means he's 40. And at that point, I'm now 80. I have a desire if my children choose to have children of their own, to be a involved and fun and spry grandfather. And I look at a lot of the 80-year-olds that I've seen in my life, and they are not that. They are decrepit, they are crusty, they are unhappy, and I don't want that to be me. And so I said, okay, cool. Now I have 40 years. 40 years, that's a long time to work on becoming a happy, fun, spry, healthy 80-year-old. Cool. So I'm going to start now, and I have 40 years to get there. So that's great. So that's kind of like my almost gateway into really looking that far ahead at how do I want to take care of myself today and what's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree, because what happens is that, I've also noticed that when your human consciousness is, first of all, it's an amazing flower. And what ends up happening is that as we go through time and gravity and hormonal imbalance and experiences, our consciousness expands. So by the time you're going to be 80, your consciousness would be the best that you've ever experienced. Because how you feel at 43 is going to be like, I never want to be 30 again. I never want to be 20 again, because I love the consciousness I have experienced through, and whatever chemically I became at this stage in my life. So
Yep.
when you are at 80 and your consciousness is so amazed at that, your consciousness should not just be completely enmeshed in taking care of different organs that are falling apart. So the concept of health, preserving your health, is one of the fundamental concepts in longevity, because longevity is basically
Yep.
all the things that will lead you to preserving your health span through life. And listen, we will always be dealing with our own genetic code. So you are a combination of your mother and your father, and all the good things they had and all the bad things they had too. So if they had diseases that they carried, they have gifted those to you also in your genome. So what
Boy.
ends up happening is that you will also need to escape not just your current present situation and your mindset, but also everything that is going on in your DNA, because epigenetics means that at any given point, at any given another chemical reaction may just occur in your system. And then
Yep.
there you go. You're like, poof, there's a problem. And it's not something of your own making. It is you were the carrier of that code. It had to manifest at this point, and you can manifest it. So fighting that battle, and for every human, there is a path. There is a path for every human. And I've seen miraculous recoveries from problems that everybody said that everybody had given up, and suddenly there are miraculous, because for every human there is that path, and you have to recognize it for yourself. You have to learn yourself to be able to come to that point. And of course, every human also needs a guide. And I think that this is a point where I am a big believer in AI, where AI can help you connect with your concierge, where your one doctor cannot take care of all the other problems that you're having. So maybe this is a point where artificial superintelligence can assist humans in living longer. I'm actually quite sad that before we used artificial superintelligence for things like health and longevity, we've started using it for war instead. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like anything else. AI is also a tool that has been created by human consciousness. And the concept of this tool is to help you maybe perhaps live longer rather than kill yourself and your children.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting concept with AI. It's doing a lot to supplement what already exists. It'll be interesting when it actually starts to replace some of what already exists in this space. I think it's a fine line to maneuver between supplementation and replacement.
Yes, the thing is that AI cannot replace the human consciousness or its touch, because
Yeah.
it doesn't. Because
Yeah.
what your chemical react, because remember, you have chemistry which AI does not, and even if it tries to, even if they install a chip in your brain, it will never feel the way a mortal feels,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yep.
the fact that we are organic, there is also a vibe, a frequency that each one of us emits. That's how we are
Yep.
even communicating with each other right now. So even though we are using machinery, it is whatever is coming through your brain, through your data processor, your biggest code data processor, and that is whatever comes from you. So healing, I feel, will always require a human. So you will never be out of that, because what you will bring to a person, the human touch will always be better, which will always feel different. And does it mean that, can a machine save your life? Yes, a machine can. Actually, the machine saves your life every day. When your heart is failing and it's not beating, we go and we put a chip in your heart.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
there, whenever your heart skips a beat, it's going to beat for you, so that
Yep.
it carries the rhythm. But still, a machine will not be able to do everything, and that is
Yep.
why we should use it as a tool to enhance and promote life and health and wellness. And I think that era is upon us, and I am very excited about
Mm.
it. And I think that there will be a lot of shit also, and you will have to shift the stuff that, it's like finding a needle in the haystack. So finding
Yep.
that
Yep.
thing, because there'll be a lot of crap
Find
also, and
what
you'll be
works,
able to,
what's good.
yeah, what
Yeah.
works. And then there are general rules, but there will always be specific rules, because nobody else has the same genetic combination as you or me, for that matter.
Right.
We're also
Yep.
very unique while being very similar.
One thing that you talk about that I find to be very unique to your approach. So you've already talked about lifespan and health span as sort of two unique concepts, but you also talk about beauty span. And I don't think very many doctors are talking about this. And it's an important topic, and it's an interesting topic, because most people, when they think about health, they kind of almost intentionally shove something like beauty or aesthetics to the side. But everything is interconnected, right? And you already talked about skin as the largest organ on your body. So what is beauty span, and why is it important? If your energy isn't what it was 5 or 10 years ago, you are paying a performance tax, whether you realize it or not. I am hosting a live executive briefing called The Hidden Performance Tax, where I break down exactly how stress and sleep and metabolic drift quietly erode your edge, and what to do about it. This isn't a wellness webinar, it is a performance protection strategy. If you're serious about stabilizing your energy and protecting your output, register now. primalwellnesscoaching.com/webinar, or click the link in this episode. primalwellnesscoaching.com/webinar. There are limited spots. Grab yours now. I'll see you there.
So my journey into the land of longevity started with beauty. And
Okay.
I started when I was younger than you, a few years younger than you. And at that
Mm-hmm.
point, I had started noticing the perimenopausal impact on my own body and my own skin, and my skin was changing. And I was like, what is this that is happening to me? I mean, no matter where I go for vacation, no matter how many days I take off, it's just not, I just don't feel it. It's not coming back. And that's when
You
I
just talking
decided
about
to experience.
looking kind of worn.
Yes, so where the skin starts getting, where your crinkles, when you used to go to sleep, you would wake up and body had repaired itself, because remember, your body is magic. It will repair you when you are sleeping. However, as you go through different pauses,
Yeah.
the repairs get slower and slower, because your blood starts getting old and your stuff, is just not as present as it used to be when you were younger. So what ends up happening at that point is
Mm-hmm.
that you start figuring out, what else can I do to help myself? So when I went on that journey, my journey started through the land of beauty. And very soon, in few years, so I used some medical grade skincare products, which are usually, different injections and some stuff. And I used that, and I was forever changed, because I was like, wow, this is possible. You can turn time, you can bend time. And with like a little shot, and it is like a medication, so it's not like forever. It's like any other medication. It has like a period of action, and then it you got to go and do it again. However, time still goes through, but your skin doesn't degrade by doing some of those treatments. However, I very soon realized that the skincare and beauty sits on an iceberg of health and wellness protocols. Anybody, beauty is not just skin deep, and beauty is it's a very complex idea. I do feel that even though it is the pinnacle, I say that nobody can grant you beauty. Beauty, something, it is a genetic code that is given as a gift to you from your ancestors. If you have it, please thank your mother. If you don't have it, please also go to have a conversation with your mother. Nobody else can give you beauty. However, there are some preservatives that we can give you so that you can stay connected with your versions of beauty or whatever. But what I say is that every human has, no matter where you are in time and where you are in age, you need to allow yourself the grace to accept yourself the way you are, because
Okay.
that is the baseline from where we are going to start the longevity journey. And I realized that beauty is, even if it is the tip of the iceberg is all health, wellness, whatever. If you're not sleeping well, if you're not eating well, if you're not working out, if you're not taking your supplements, some of the things that your diet is not real food, and you're gonna suffer. And beauty is a very fickle mistress. When you get sick, the first thing that leaves your system is beauty. And that's why if you ever go to the hospital, you will never find anybody who's looking beautiful over there. And if somebody is looking beautiful in the hospital, you're probably watching a movie. Please go and check again. So that is why. So I am a believer and a worshiper of beauty. However, I work for it. I say that, how do you tell if, which doctor to go, because beauty is such a big pursuit in humans, because that is the first trophy you will get is beauty, and how it evolves over time. But, beauty is beauty. I mean, if someone is beautiful, it is a genetic gift, and it's a go.
Do you
But do I, what can you get it at a surgeon's office? No, no. Can you get it at a
so some people would argue with that though, right? Some people
no,
would say, yeah, I want to be beautiful. I'm going to go to the plastic surgeon.
See, the thing is that plastic surgeon cannot make you beautiful. Plastic surgeon can
Okay.
help you. Like, for instance, if you're like, if you were beautiful at 35 and now you're 65 and your skin has expanded because it has expanded through time, and it has like now fallen apart. So the plastic surgeon is like a surgical tailor who's going to cut you and bring you back to the closest
Yeah.
version of you when you were young. So you had beauty. You
Right.
just lost connection with it, and the plastic surgeon will bring you back to that connection. Yes, that can happen, that, you might
Okay.
suddenly feel that your skin also paused, because beauty pauses with menopause. So when that pause happens and your beauty is pausing, somebody can bring you back. So we also say that we can bring you back non-surgically, with somewhat back to where you were, to begin with. Everybody, I actually have become
So
a
like
believer
a
in the fact.
non-surgical, I was going to say, so like a non-surgical facelift or just,
Yeah.
purely aesthetic non-surgical interventions.
So basically, non-surgical treatments I personally find them to be a lot better than cutting your skin, because human skin does not like being cut. And we have seen that people sometimes, when they cut themselves, because what happens is that your skin cells and your skin is represented inside your brain, first of all. And your skin cells and your brain cells are eternal soulmates. When you were like a very little tiny embryo, the outermost layer of that embryonic cells, half of it turns into your brain cells and the other half turns into your skin cells. So your brain looks at your skin and tells where you are in time. So one of the ways to, fool yourself, not you can never, nobody can fool themselves, is to appear well to yourself, because it's not
Yeah.
about others. It's about you, your own self, like how you feel, because the only person you can never fool is you. So sometimes surgery can cause an injury to your brain, because your brain cells will still be there. Meanwhile, you chucked out your skin cells. And women may appear beautiful to others, but when they look at themselves, they'll be like, I don't feel it. I don't feel it because I'm not that person. This is somebody
Yeah.
else. It may be pretty too, but it's not that one. So, recognizing that is also important. Do you need surgery? I mean, do you need surgery every 10 years? I don't think not anymore. I think that we are very close to coming to a point where we'll be able to preserve the health of your skin and vitality of your skin without cutting you, and with
And
minimally
so,
invasive stuff.
yeah. So what would that be? What are the non-surgical alternatives to what someone would have historically accomplished with surgery?
So, like right now, the FDA has approved this device, which is several devices, which are like treatments. These are sound, the energy of sound that we transfer under your skin to basically
Mm.
promote collagen synthesis and new matrix layers of new
With
fibers.
sound.
And basically,
Wow.
it's like non-surgical lift. It's like a non-surgical enhancement, which people tend to do once or twice a year. And
And that
it just
actually works, huh?
it works, and you have to do it every year.
Wow.
So instead of doing
Okay.
one surgery every 10 years, which are, I mean, women 20 years ahead of me would did that. Like every 10 years, you go for a cut, a nip and a tuck, because the skin expands. Because remember, your skin, if you were a tree, like just like the trees have the concentric circles, the human
Mm-hmm.
skin also like is constantly expanding in time, and it grows. And, that is, and it needs to be fed. So, some of these treatments will enhance your connection with yourself and promote your connection with yourself through time. And I think they're already here, and they'll only get better.
And what do you think of red light therapy as a beauty treatment? So I'm a big fan of like red infrared light therapy as sort of a general wellness tool. I know they have actually I got one for my wife, like the red light face mask. I stand in front of a red light every day. I don't know any difference aesthetically, but does it actually work? Does it actually, I know it's supposed to help with collagen and blood flow and things like that.
There is a possibility of creating some, micro circulation advantage in using red light therapy. I see it all the time. I don't promote it for the reason that sometimes doing excess of anything may not be good for you eventually, because many of these treatments are light treatments. And usually when you do light treatments on your face, especially during certain sunny seasons, what you can actually sensitize your skin to developing pigmentation. So sometimes skin cells are very, delicate cells, and you don't want to, yes, for a little while, it might become like nice and shiny, but if you overdo it, it can also harm you.
Hmm.
Everything in, that is the only thing. And I know that sometimes people do it for hair growth also. They have like the red light cap. If you do it within reason, I don't see any harm in it. But is it going to be to create a facelift kind of an effect for you? No, it won't. It is a
Okay.
very topical treatment. It's like, so your skin has three layers. So the deep layer where your skin meets the inside of your body, and that's where
Mm-hmm.
the new skin is already always generating. And then there is
Okay.
a middle layer where all your problems exist, where
Hmm.
your collagen is, where your blood flow goes, where hair follicles come out and all. And then there is the top layer, and your top layer is like basically made up of dead skin cells. The very, very top layer. That's why we say that when we look at each other, we're looking at dead parts of each other. And the
Okay.
top layer is like basically a barrier where you meet the world. And that's where, that's where a lot of treatments exist. So red light will do stuff for your top layer. It won't really get to the deeper layers of your skin. For like
Okay.
the earlier treatment of the lift that I was talking to you about, now that
Yeah.
treatment tackles all three layers. It's like,
Interesting.
we put energy into all those layers, and that's not a light energy, that's a sound energy. Now, the
Yeah.
energy of sound is going to turn your skin on in a different way. The light does help in some promotion of some blood flow and stuff, but you got to be careful. You can't just, I mean, and I am all for placebo. Remember, like, I feel that if your prayer is gonna grant me a glow, please pray for me. I'll ask for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but the thing is that also know that we at this point are living in a physicality, and our body is going to respond to the laws of physics that are applicable in this realm.
Okay. Got it. What about, so it's all the rage right now. So what about peptides? Like, are you a
I love
fan? Are you not a
peptides.
fan?
I'm a
And if
believer. I'm a believer in
okay, and
peptides. Peptides forever.
okay, right on.
I actually,
So
on
what
my
peptides should we know
podcast, if
about
you
for
go
this
on my
space?
yes. So if you go on my podcast, I have a peptide playbooks episodes going on where me and one of my
Okay.
friends and a colleague who has actually, you should actually also bring him on your podcast. He has a modern man podcast. So anyway, so we are doing a series on peptides, and peptides are basically, what are peptides? Peptides are basically these little tiny chains of amino acids that are like text messages to your body to create a different reality. And basically, it's a
Okay.
text message, because remember, your body is a producer of miracles. And by giving this instruction to your body can produce its own miracle. So some of the peptides and why did we start taking peptides seriously is because we, by accidentally, listen, all the discoveries are accidental. However, in my world, we call them synchronicities, and that, suddenly you're supposed to find, and you just find that. So we found peptides in dealing with diabetes and obesity, and the GLP-1s, how they have changed people's disease problems. So these people who were going to die in the next 10 to 15 years, or become seriously debilitated
Yeah.
in the next 10 to 15
Yeah.
years, are not going to die now. They will not have any of
Okay.
those that thing, that arc of diseases that was going to happen to them is not going to happen to them anymore. So we have adjusted their lives trajectories by giving them this medication, and it's going to change the way humans will experience some of the problems of aging. However,
Yeah.
it's not everything. And now we are realizing that there are more peptides. And I'm very happy and relieved that many of these peptides that were initially being like just unduly, the gate kept, are now out in the open so people can use it. Not everything is going to be right for you. You still need, this is not like, too much of anything is like, and, you don't think that everything lies in this, because you still need to do some of the other things. But however, the medicine seems to be now divided into management of your sicknesses and problems, a disease management system, which is covered by your health insurance in United States, and then health management system. And there, in health management and longevity system, you are responsible for it yourself, and anything that promotes your health is your own problem, and that's an out of pocket cost. And sometimes beauty also resides right there,
Yeah.
because beauty and health are kind of intimately
Sure.
tied. When you're
Yeah.
healthy, you also want to be like the best that you are, the best version of whoever you are. And that is, that's so those two systems are now, people are distinguishing between the two systems, and they know that their health insurance is like their car insurance. It's only going to get activated when you get sick, or, you get into an accident or something, and your
Yep.
health is your own problem, and you do what you do for it. And that's a totally out of pocket market. However, even if it is out of pocket, you still need to find people who are trained in it, because it's not completely without risk.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
if you're doing it, not with guidance and appropriate, like just going in for the heck of it and getting it from wherever. I know people who just get stuff from some website they don't even know where this thing is getting shipped from. Again,
Yep.
health foods and supplement market is billions of dollars worth of industry. And people again
Sure.
have to figure out, because I have seen some really big health influencers who will be carrying like this big bottle of like different supplements they're taking orally. And I disagree
Yeah.
with many of those health supplements, because I feel that every supplement that exists in some bottle also carries with it preservative, and you may or may not be able to absorb that supplement through your gut, because your gut is also a line of defense, and it protects you from from whatever you want to put inside your mouth. So your
Yeah.
gut may not absorb or let any unknown that it doesn't recognize inside your system. However, the preservative might lodge into your liver and cause issues. And I see a lot of people by the time they're 50s and 60s, they have fatty livers and they have liver issues because the liver
Yeah.
has been just trying to clean their body from different supplements. So
Yeah.
peptides
Well,
will
the
eventually fall into this health supplement category at some point. However, they will
yeah.
be those supplements that you will have to go and meet a doctor who has trained in the use of those treatments safely.
I want to ask you a question that I think is going to be very specific to your expertise, since you focus on beauty, but you're also a fan of the peptides. So GLP-1's very cool, very hot right now. Great. It's a longevity peptide, but it turns out it works as a weight loss intervention as well. And so something that I've seen as a byproduct of people that have successfully lost a lot of weight while being on GLP-1 is what they're calling Ozempic face, right? Where they've had this rapid weight loss and the exterior has not been able to keep up with what's going on underneath, where all the fat is going away, but they still have all of the skin, and maybe they're not eating well, so they're not getting all the nutrients. And not only is the skin sagging, but it's showing the effects of the lack of support that it needs from maybe a hydration or nutrient perspective. So if you're working with someone that's on a GLP-1, how would you support their aesthetic journey from like a exterior standpoint to support the weight loss that's happening underneath?
So GLP-1s are, when humans of the future, when they will look back at this time and on to this century, one of the medications that they will say that turn time for us is this GLP-1. GLP-1, we have GLP-2, and now
Mm-hmm.
we even have GLP-3. So GLP-1, basically,
Yeah.
these peptides are sugar neutralizers. That's what they are. Your sugar is constantly cooking your body. Just know that. And then this is like an iron dome of a sugar neutralizing that you put inside your system. And what it does is that you will never have sugar spikes. And so you won't get the routine cooking that we do of our system inside. So it kind of changes the way your body ages. Now, by sugar neutralizing this system,
Okay.
yes, your weight will get better, because remember, one of the worst impact of sugar is onto your fat cells. So when the fat cells are not exposed to this abnormal levels of sugar all the freaking time, then what ends up happening is that the fat also becomes rejuvenated and young. And it also lets go of all the hoarding that it does of every single calorie that your body takes. So fat
Okay.
cells rejuvenation happens very quickly with GLP-1s, 2s, and even GLP-3 is actually, they're saying that the new GLP-3 is even better because it is muscle sparing, so you don't lose your muscle. And however, the thing is that when you do GLP also, you can't have like a crazy fast weight loss without exercising, without taking adequate amounts of protein, without taking nutrients. And that's why it's best to do these treatments with under the guidance of someone, so that we can guide you safely through it. Now, yes, if you have over a period of
Okay.
time, if you need to lose, like, let's say 20 pounds or whatever, or like if it is 50 pounds or 80 pounds, and then you're constantly losing. So every 20 pounds or every 10-20 pounds, you do need to go and put some of these treatments where we tighten and lift your skin, so that you don't need cutting at the end of that, because your skin has expanded with fat. Because if you are
Yeah.
obese and now you suddenly are 180, so where will all that skin go? So as you're losing weight, it's best to
Right.
also tighten your skin. Otherwise, it has
Yeah.
happened all the time. Like when you do bariatric surgery on someone, or people have lost
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
200 pounds, they then have to go and do surgery because they will cut it.
Yep.
So now the thing is that if it is
Yep.
like little bit of weight, you can get away with like a little bit of these aesthetic treatments that are now available pretty much in every town. If you are in a big city, like on every corner, I see a beauty center where they have like these devices, because these devices have been around for 15 years and there have been doctors like me who have been practicing and training on it. So like, so I know this device that I am talking about, like I have like 3 of those. I have trained on it for the past 14 years. So yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I know that it not only works, but it actually has saved so many women from having to get surgeries prematurely. And
Amazing.
and the thing is that it's like keeping yourself together, because we should treat skin with respect, and cutting your skin is disrespect. It's a sin.
Yeah.
you know so
Yeah.
that's why we say that as you're losing weight, great, you're being healthy, but if you're gonna like fall apart from here, you gotta also go, and I tell people that in your GLP journey you should add the cost of preserving the shape and features of your face, because your face is how you recognize you as you, and others recognize you as you. So if you're doing it for
What
health and wellness, why would you don't want to lose touch with the person who you were.
Yeah. What do you call the device or the treatment with the sound wave?
So there are like a bunch of devices that are worldwide. However, in United States, there are 2 that are currently FDA approved. One is called SoftWave and the other is called Therapy. And they both work on the same premise. And I don't want to nobody's paying me to whatever. I'm going to just give you all the, if anything, I pay them to give me these treatments so I
Yeah.
can talk about this to my clients and patients. But yes, they're here and there are people who have trained in them, and you have to find out what is your right fit. So I feel that if you're a GLP, you also
Yep.
need a skin tailor. Because if you're losing
Yeah.
50,
Yeah. Yeah.
100 pounds, you will need a skin tailor. Otherwise, you're going to have an Ozempic face, which a lot of people have.
Yep. Yep. 100%. This has been a very interesting conversation. I don't really ever on this show get into the realm of aesthetics, so it's kind of fun to talk about that, particularly because my wife is about the same age as I am, and so she's on this journey of her own into aesthetic preservation. So it's kind of a fun conversation for me to have with you as I have these conversations with her about the things that she's looking at for her own aesthetic preservation. And I tell her she's not allowed to ever touch her face because it's beautiful and it's aging quite well, but she doesn't care what I say, so she's going to do what she wants to do anyway.
So the thing is that you cannot find a solution for body dysmorphia in an aesthetic office. If you don't find
Yeah.
yourself beautiful, that's a problem. That is like a psych issue. However, if you know you're beautiful, you like how you are, at that point, if you feel I want to just preserve myself, and especially when you're in the realm of perimenopause and menopause, you need medical grade skincare. So you have to think of this as not she altering her appearance, because that's not the purpose of anti-aging. Purpose of anti-aging is to basically anti-age yourself. It is not to alter your appearance. It is basically to stay connected with that self. And yes, you may need medical grade stuff because topical stuff will not work anymore. So some things may need
Yep.
to get injected in the different layers of the skin. And how often do you need to go to somebody like me? Not that much. However, for health and other activities, yeah, people come to me all the time for that. So it is like, as you are pausing, as you are
Yep.
perimenopausing, don't just wait until one day, all of it, you will have to just reckon with yourself, right? So because that's why my podcast is called Bathroom Diaries, because that's where you face off with yourself without any filters or makeup. So are you facing off with
Yeah.
yourself, and are you okay with that? And that's the person who is the most important. And what do you need to do? How can you do it safely? How can you not? So you can tell your wife that, yes, wherever you go, please make sure they don't change you. They don't alter your appearance. They keep you like
Yeah.
you are because you're beautiful. I want you as this. And, she should keep herself together for as long as she can. And it is not
Yeah.
cheap. It is not inexpensive. But what's going to happen is that it's going to be worth it for you. That's how
Yep.
it works.
Yep.
So I
Well, Dr.
agree
Din,
with
thank
your
you for
wife.
this conversation today. Yeah, thank
You're
you.
most
I'll let her
welcome.
know. But yeah, thank you for the conversation today. It's been fun kind of exploring the entire range from lifespan to health span to beauty span as well. That's kind of a fun topic for me to have explored really for the first time on this show. So thank you for coming on and thank you for bringing your expertise.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And folks, go to the superhumanblueprintpodcast.com. I will link to Dr. Sofia Din on there and her alter ego, Dr. Juvanni. So she's got her med spa, she's got a YouTube, she's got a podcast, got a book, got a whole bunch of stuff. So we'll add the links in the show notes and I will see you on the next show. Dr. Din, thank you again.